Hello, everybody. Welcome to CIO Leadership Live. I am Kirat Attar, Associate Editor at CIO, and I will be your host for this episode. Our guest today is Nikhil Bhushan, the CTO of Starbucks India. Nikhil, welcome to our very first episode of the new year of CIO Leadership Live. It is such a pleasure to have you with us here.
Thanks a lot, Kiran. Thanks a lot for that.
Thank you. Nikhil, Starbucks is such a popular brand and is creating such a big imprint in India and it's become so ubiquitous in urban spaces. And I'm so excited for this conversation. So let us get right into it. To begin, Nikhil, can you tell us a little bit about Tata Starbucks and your role and responsibility as the CTO of the organization?
Yeah, sure. So Tata Starbucks in India, it is a joint venture with the two biggest brands, Tata Group and Starbucks, and we've been in the market since 2012. Uh, we are now close to, I think, 470 stores spread across, I think, 50 plus cities. And of course, in the the mode where we are expanding the reach further. So I have joined Starbucks as the CTO around mid of last year, and so I'm very excited to be in this position where I'm getting an opportunity to work with with one of the marquee brands. So my role essentially boils down to managing, or rather enabling the businesses to really have that the tech advantage, so that they can focus more on coffee, and I can worry about all the support systems that go into, so whether that's the point of sale or the services of the customer, or the back end in terms of making our operations and supply chain finances more efficient. So yeah, and of course, an overarching view is always around the security. So that probably comes with me as well. And yeah, I'm so very much your point contact with anything to do with technology within Starbucks.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I think we can appreciate the fact that the perfect cup of coffee does have a lot going on behind the scenes. And hopefully, with all of our questions, we'll be able to shed some light on that. Nikhil, I want to know currently, Tata Starbucks has around 390, almost 400 stores in India. And the plans, as I've heard, is to have about 1,000 stores in the country by 2028. That's big numbers. That's a huge goal to set, even if it's for such a big brand. So, how is the cafe chain maintaining a robust technological infrastructure?
Sure.
There'll be more
So
number
for
of stores, there'll be more
Starbucks,
complexity.
absolutely, absolutely. So the way I would put it is, Starbucks has, over the years, there has been different stages. So we've been a bit cautious in terms of, obviously the way we expand. One is the technology certainly has to be, more forward. We have to support that scale. At the same time, I cannot be front loading on my costs in terms of tech. So, see, today when I am with 480 odd stores, so we are almost in the halfway mark, right? So, I cannot already have an infrastructure which is, let's say, scaled for 2,000, 3,000 stores, because that would mean a lot of capex getting front loaded and not being an efficient way of doing things. So what I have or rather as a company, what we have done is probably three main phases of a growth plan. So the first obviously was more of a smaller setup of maybe 100, 200 stores, doing efficiencies, doing the right digital approach in terms of reaching out and having those basic I would say parameters in place. The interesting part has been in the last 4 years when we've actually doubled it from, let's say, around 200 to now close to 500. And so this work has still been relatively simple to do, because it's easier to go from 200 to 500, because still there's not a major change in the infra in terms of at least the ERPs, clouds, and the data centers. They more or less are scalable to that. The interesting phase is going to come now. So from 500 to 1,000 and beyond, it will start needing a complete different outlook. So we are already modernizing most of our technologies now, whether it's the core I would say the back of house systems. So with the ERP of the world, the the supply chain logistics, all those are getting complete revamp. We are completely redoing the front of house systems, like your point of sale, which is in fact the first system that you would come across when you're at a store doing your interaction with the barista. And then obviously like the entire digital ecospace, right? So we will be very soon upgrading our digital presence, both our own app as well as through the partner aggregations that we have. So the food delivery aggregators, in fact, very soon we could be in the in the quick commerce space, and which is which is a completely different ball game. So I cannot have the same uh, methodology or the the same tech supporting, let's say, my store sales and digital and quick commerce and beyond. So obviously it's quite a complex piece, but hopefully we will keep it simple for the customer and almost seamless for the operations.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Nikhil. As you were talking about all the different touch points through which you are engaging with your customers and they're able to place the order of their perfect cup of coffee with you, couldn't help but think that these are millions of customers that you're engaging on an annual basis, and new customers are being added every single day because at any point there could be a customer buying their first cup of Starbucks coffee or Starbucks product. So when you have these many customers, you also collect or you also receive a large amount of data from them. And given that it's very important for business to understand what kind of customers, what kind of service they expect, how do you maybe leverage data and analytics in order to gain keen insights on your customers? Something that might not be apparent, but that if you dive deeper, then you will gain that insight about your customer. If you could give us an example of it and how it has helped to improve your business in India.
Sure. So when it comes to data, I would take it in two steps. So one is more of the coherent data, so which is actually without any PII or without any, let's say, individual preferences and choices. So
Yeah.
those are typically the transactional and the sales data analysis that we do. So obviously we have a own data lake setup. We get the let's say the sales from different stores, regions, and a lot of, I would say, we have a couple of data scientists who also actively work on these inputs to come up with the, let's say, the more of the known trends, which are very obvious. Most of the BI tools and platforms readily give that. But our focus is also to to try to tap into the unknown or the the blind spots, right? So maybe which are the
Yes.
hidden trends which are not very obvious. So those are the things that we do more in terms of, I would say, the uh, non-PII type of data information.
Go.
At the same time, we have a lot of a loyalty program is in fact one of the marquee programs in India. I mean, it's I would say one of, if not the top, but one of the really mature programs, and we have that stickiness with customers for long. So in fact, I have few gold customers who are probably even more than a decade old, and which is saying something to to maintain that loyalty with the brand
Loyalty.
for
Yeah.
so long. So now those are the customers who obviously are willing to share their preferences, right? So even though okay, I may not be able to qualify. So the way we work is I mean, when you come to a store, the minute you scan or voluntarily scan your digital card or not to get your maybe loyalty membership known, it's only that point which we identify a customer, and which is also means that okay, that the customer is willing to share at least that limited amount of preferences and data so that we can help serve them better. Those are the, I would say, the journeys which are really key for our growth. So we always keep our gold customers delighted when they come to the stores. So there is a lot of I would say analytics that run in the background, right from known preferences, known allergens, let's say any particular delight the customer had in the recent past, or any, let's say misses that were on our part for to get that experience to a customer. So all those things coming instantaneous at the point of sale. I mean, that is something which really works, and we we try to have those type of analytics built into.
Understood. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The other thing that you mentioned that was of particular interest was how much Starbucks is able to engage with their customers through the digital platforms, be it the apps or even the aggregate stores. And I think that's sort of even very innovative, even in the Indian market, because maybe not a lot of brands or cafe brands have been able to have that kind of impact. So I'm very curious to know, especially from a CTO's perspective, how is the brand leveraging this digital first approach, which keeps the brand attractive and which is keeping the customer demographic engaged, also with your rewards program? So how do you make that happen?
So to begin with, I mean, like, no, so we Starbucks as a philosophy, right? I mean, it has always been a people connection and like, no, a neighborhood connection. So it's always our stores have been like, the places where like, where we have these interactions and like, fantastic beverages. At the same time, of course, we've kept pace with the like, with the growing demand and the changing habits, and especially like, Gen Z and the millennia, which is like, more digital forward. Uh, while having said that, I mean, like, we are still always coffee forward, right? So all my technology will revolve around making sure like the experience, whether like, whether you are in store or through any of the other channels, that remains consistent, right? So even if you, let's say, like, order through an aggregator, right? Now, while I may not have a control on like, on the final last mile delivery, like, of the aggregator who comes and like, gives that coffee, we try to still keep it consistent in terms of like, what are the type of notifications, what are the type of messaging, maybe loyalty rewards,
Yes.
how we can still partner. I mean, in fact, very soon, you in one of the platforms, I'll not be able to disclose, but on one of the aggregator platforms, you will be able to redeem and earn rewards of Starbucks, like the stars, what we call, right? So, which is something very unique because
Uh,
typically uh,
that's
the
amazing. Yeah.
aggregators don't let any other loyalty program run, but they do realize the
Yeah.
importance of like, the stickiness, and especially when it comes to Starbucks, the type of loyal customers and the willingness of them to like, go out of the way to like, to get those rewards and like, redemptions. So
Yeah.
that's where we are like, integrating, and we're trying to maybe like, enlarge that entire space a bit more, because it's very important for our customers to like, to have continuously. And it's not only the rewards per se, it's like, the experience, like I said. So unless I know that, okay, like, a particular customer walking to my store or ordering through any of the, let's say, digital channel, which is, let's say, not the Starbucks app, because Starbucks app is again like, where I have a more close control. But the experience has to be same, right? So I mean, if I'm a gold customer on a like, aggregator app, I should have the same offers, the same experience, had I been
Yes.
at the
Yeah.
store or maybe using a like, the
Starbucks app.
Starbucks mobile app. So we are trying to achieve that more and more, and that's going to be, I think, the like, key differentiator going forward as well.
That's amazing. And honestly, I feel like that's very exciting and a win-win for both your customers, your loyal customers, and for the brand as well. Because they should be able to use the reward points earned by being, a loyal and happy Starbucks customer, and to be able to provide that across platforms is quite groundbreaking. So that's amazing. Yeah. Uh, Nikhil, I don't think any interview around technology is now complete without referencing the big AI, generative AI, and all emerging technologies. So I have to ask, because I feel like the generative AI has come about only a year ago or so, and since then has made a huge splash, and every industry has been clamoring to try to implement it and try to make the best use of it every way possible. So I have to ask, how has Starbucks jumped on the bandwagon or is leveraging generative AI to improve operations or improve cybersecurity or improve customer experience? Because all of this has an impact on the bottom line.
Sure. So we have started on this journey more, I would say, on the back of house initiatives right now. So whether it's on my cybersecurity, whether it's on like, my operations and supply chain. So we are trying to like, to maybe take baby steps on like, on Gen AI on those areas. Reason being is, of course, like, while Gen AI is here to stay, right? I mean, it probably has not matured to the level where I would be very confident of like, exposing it as is to maybe my customers, because in fact, like, obviously there are a lot of stories around where like, maybe a new car was sold for less than $1 because the AI could not handle and it committed something. So obviously that's that. Okay, it's one off, but I really don't even want to have a single customer have that non-standard Starbucks experience while interacting with like, with any of our channels. Having said that, yes, we have always been using AI and ML, right? So when it comes to my the recommendation engine, or when it comes to my chatbot or the help desk, AI was always there, right? So
Yeah.
what has been missing is the generative part, which is obviously relatively new. It needs a good, I would say, LLM model. It needs a much, I would say, larger database to really make sense. And of course, it has to, the infrastructure has to keep pace. So I will have to also invest in a lot of compute to make sure at my endpoints, or at the edge, I'm able to give some meaningful Gen AI use cases. So, well, they are there on the roadmap, but as of now, we are more focused on on the cyber and the ops, or the back office front of it.
Thank you. That's a very honest, very candid response. There's room for improvement there, and I'm sure industries are
Well, it is
discussing
a
that.
learning. So
It's
while we
learning.
want to be the early adopters, I mean, it's okay if I'm not the first one. I mean, I'm happy to be
Yeah.
the second or the third of doing that. So
Yeah.
we are very much there.
Yeah. And plus there's a fine balance between early adopter and just the fear of missing out. So I guess
Absolutely.
you do the walk
Absolutely.
the line. Yeah. Yeah. Nikhil, for my final question of the interview, and I remember when I was going through the Starbucks website, etc., for our conversation, I came across the Starbucks environmental promise, that is to give more than you take, which I believe is very, very necessary, especially given that the whole earth will deal with the impact of our usage patterns, and we will see it in the form of climate impact. As a CTO, can you speak to the commitment that Starbucks India has to environmental conservation and sustainability, and if technologically you are able to contribute to it in some way?
Yeah. So of course, apart from the, I would say, more physical steps that we take, whether it's a green stores, whether it's a reusable cups that we promote, and so those are well, I mean, honestly, not much from the CTO desk, but from
Yeah,
my perspective, what I'm trying to certainly do is when it comes to, let's say, my data centers, or the endpoint devices that we are using, or maybe the third-party software and services that we consume. We insist a lot on on making sure that directly or indirectly they are in the green zone, in sense of whether it's a data center which is using, let's say, a lot of green energies, or whether it's my endpoint devices which are using at least a certain amount of recycled material in terms of the hardware and the packaging what they do. So those are the, I would say, the small steps that at least from the tech perspective we are trying to take. Apart from this, yes, I mean, how do I use this large amount of data, trying to make sense out of it? Because one is, of course, data will just keep on growing, but I mean, is it really going to make sense to have a lot of storage getting consumed, and a lot of compute getting consumed without having a tangible output? So those are the areas where we are cautious that, okay, like I said, right? I mean, so I don't want to jump onto a Gen AI just for the sake of it. So unless we really find out, okay, that having a particular use case coming as an output, and being, I would say, doing justice to the type of power and consumption it's going to have on the compute, not only on in terms of the the money resources, but the impact on environment as well. So
yes.
overall, we are going to be cautious on that, and move forward in that direction.
Thank you. That's a very intuitive response as well. And if there are more brands across the world which have such a global presence, if they can think about their environment as well as they think about the people and growth and their ensuing success, I think we would be in a more balanced situation in the world today.
That absolutely.
Yeah. Nikhil, thank you so much for all of your responses. This brings me to the end of our conversation. And as a parting note, I would like to say that Starbucks, I think, is one of those brands where, when you engage with the brand so often, everyone's a Starbucks consumer. I've had the coffee very many times. I've also seen the infrastructure that people sit there and they work sometimes several hours a day because Starbucks has that environment that if you're just there and you're doing your work and all that, you can be there, be
So
comfortable.
it's what we call the third home. So
The
that's a
third
good
home.
place. Rather.
I've seen people use it as a third home, as a remote office, as a brainstorming place. For every kind of conversation, I think Starbucks has been there to provide that haven for its customers. And every so often you wonder what makes this brand so successful, what makes this brand the go-to for people. And I feel like this interview will shed some light on that. So thank you so much for your responses.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So you cannot listen.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all of our viewers for watching this interview. For more such conversations, please keep tuning into CIO Leadership Live.